Just getting started or feeling stuck? Wherever you're at, the VO Dojo is here to help you take your voiceover career all the way. Get the training, support, and connection you need to guide you every step of the way, from I don't know to working pro. You get a rock-solid foundation and all the tools you need for your sustained, successful voiceover career. Mindset, skill set, and real-world experience, all in a hands-on, hearts-in, supportive community. Join us at thevodojo.com.
Welcome everyone to the VO Dojo's Get to Know VO. I am Tish Hicks. I'm the Master Sensei of the VO Dojo, usually in Burbank, California, but I am in my hometown of Chicago, Illinois today. We are super excited to have my dear old friend and amazing gifted teacher and human, Benjamin Mathis, joining us today. We are going to talk about activating your acting for VO. So we'll get started in just a second. Also want to introduce 𝗧𝗶𝗺, our team member who makes everything go here, a facilitator for this, moderator for this this day, and also Anderson Stinton III, who is one of our path guides here, here to help you find your way out the dojo. So welcome. So glad everyone's here, and people, I'm assuming, will keep on coming. We're planning to aim for 11:30 Pacific time. If we might go a little bit over, but if you can plan for the 90 minutes. If any, this is all recorded, so I know it's in the middle of the day. So I know it's in the middle of the day, so if you need to roll, you can catch the recording. So let's jump in. Benjamin, thank you so much for being here. It's always such a treat. You are also technically a dojo member, and having you should do voiceover. But welcome. If you want to introduce yourself and share what you're up to, and then what we'll be up to today.
Well, thank you, Tish, for having me. This is literally my favorite thing in the world to talk about, what we're going to talk about today. She said, how much time do you need? I said, someone's going to have to stop me because I get very excited. But Tish and I go way back, at least it feels like that, at least 2012 or so. And I've been teaching acting now for 25 years in universities, but also I've been running my own studio called Crash Acting now for 16 years in Los Angeles. So that's where I'm based, but I'm from Atlanta originally. And I'm a certified teacher of 𝗧𝗶𝗺𝗲 voice work. So a lot of my work comes from the voice, but I'm not a voiceover artist. So I don't know everything about your world, but I know enough, I think, to be helpful to your world. That's the goal here. How can I be helpful? I'm like plastic. How can I be helpful to you? That's really the idea. And so here's a few things that you're going to need. You're going to want to take some notes for sure. At least that's my hope. So hopefully you have something to write with and on. And I always feel the need to remind myself to have both, writing with and on. And then I'm going to want to hear from a few of you. So if you have your camera off, I won't call on you. But if you have your camera on, you're fair game, if that's okay. Just say, hey, Remy, how are you doing? Remy, I like your glasses. I like your glasses. So that's how we're rolling. So what I'm going to do today is go through some principles of acting. I approach acting from a slightly different point of view. But the first thing I'd like to do is, can I keep going, or do you want to jump in? Okay, good. You just stop me if I just get going, the ball's gonna get rolling.
I think get going is good. One thing that maybe I'll jump in and maybe go like, and that's how we do that in voice acting.
Yes, please do. Please do.
So I'll just say, like, to lay the foundation as we jump in. You know, most of us know here, or if you're new here, you may not know that one of the foundational principles that we work on from the dojo is that voiceover is communication, and communication is an exchange of vibrational energy. That's a foundation. So I believe that voiceover is voice acting. However, I believe that acting is just being a really tuned in, imaginative human. So if you don't, I think sometimes you're like, oh, I don't have any acting background. I was like, that's okay, because the only difference between you and someone who paid $70,000 a year to go to acting school is that they did play, play games and dive into that realm. But it's all about being a human. So I think, and then there is one thing that we were talking about, Benjamin, that I think is really interesting, that is a little bit different. How do we apply the tools that we develop as humans to be good, as good humans to be good actors? Um, how do we apply it in voiceover? It's more like working with green screen, that we need to imagine everything and be in the moment, as opposed to if we're in a scene together, I can be responding to you. So I think that is one thing that we can kind of take what applies to everything, and then, oh great, how do we make that? So that would be my like thing to throw in, and then if there's something that makes sense, I'll go like, oh yeah. So
Yes, yes, please make sure. I want to stay relevant for the booth, in other words, for what it is all
that's
we
a
were
great
doing.
perspective, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So here's my idea, but to chat a little bit about where you're coming at, where everybody's coming from, just a little bit, and give you some principles around acting that I think will apply to the work you're doing. Then I want to jump right into some things that you can actually do on the day for your work. I'm going to give you some exercises that you can do, some things that you can do to prepare yourself to be the most human you can be in the booth. The really beautiful thing about Tish when I met you, and we've spoken about this a bit, but when I first met Tish, it did feel like there was a kindred spirit in the room. It felt that way to me. And in this world of acting, that doesn't always show up. That is because everybody approaches this very differently. But Tish and I seem to see this in the same way. And so when I did get to know VO, it just really felt like, oh, this is an extension of not only the work I'm trying to do, but also of who I'm trying to be. And that was always a more interesting question to me. And so if
Mm.
we can develop the depth of our humanity, then we can allow that humanity to show up in the booth or on the stage or wherever you are. Then, as Tish is saying, it redefines what acting is to me. And so you don't have to have an MFA or a BFA or any kind of formal study. You just have to have a sense of who you are and how to be that, I suppose, in front of a mic or in the booth or on the stage, whatever it is. And it's easier said than done. It's much easier said than done. It feels like we spend our whole life trying to figure out who we are and how to be
The
it.
mouse
So
with the mouse.
yes, exactly. So, but first, let me hear from Remy. I've already called on you real quick, but I want to ask everybody, and you can consider this for your own writing. And if you're not on camera, I won't call on you, but I'd encourage you to think about this anyway. I'll ask you two questions, and then a few of you I may call on because I'd like to hear your responses. But the first two questions I'd like to ask everybody first, if acting was a person, how would you describe your relationship to it? How would you describe your relationship to them? If acting was a person, how would you describe your relationship to them? And also, the next thing is, well, right now, where you are in your life today, what is acting to you? What is acting to you? And I don't mean to separate it from voice acting, what is acting to you? No matter how you understand it, where you are today, what is it to you? So, what is this relationship you have with it? And what is it that you're in relationship with? I'll give everybody a few minutes and then I'd love to hear from a few of you. So, I'm seeing some responses here. Maria says, my grandparent that I'm always trying to learn from. That's so beautiful. I love that. Acting is like a grandparent you're trying to learn from. That makes me think that acting has some wisdom that we could all source from. As I've gotten
Mm.
older, I realized I was told everything I needed to know by the time I was 5. If only I had listened the first time, you know. Turns out everything your grandparents said was right. Okay, well, Remy, I've called on you once or twice, so I might as well do it again. How did you respond to this?
So for me, it's kind of like that boyfriend that keeps coming back into your life
Hmm.
because first it's great and then it sucks and then it's great and then it sucks. So that's kind of how I see
Yes,
acting.
that makes sense. That makes sense. And what is acting to you? What is this boyfriend that keeps coming back?
It's a voice in a world that needs healing.
Wow,
Mm,
that's so
mhm.
wonderful. Wow, that's so beautiful. Acting as a voice in a world that needs healing. That's so beautiful. And when you talk about it being this boyfriend who comes back and then you enjoy it and then you don't enjoy it, you expressing the ups and downs of the industry, or are you expressing the ups and downs of your relationship with the art form?
That's a good question.
Mhm.
Probably a little bit of both.
Mm.
Yeah, what comes and
Yeah.
just trying to find your way, and then like you get rejected and then you don't get rejected, and then you get kicked and then you don't get kicked, and then it's like it's just that here we go again. Am I ever going to find my one thing that makes it work,
Yeah, right, of course. Okay, well, I imagine some of this will come up in our conversation today, but if you have any questions around this, please don't ever hesitate to ask. You can interrupt me or put it in the chat because that's a really important relationship. And yeah, I'd love for you at some point to find it to be a little more peaceful than it seems to be at the moment, your relationship to acting. Steve, how are you doing? How are you doing? Steve Fox. I don't know if there's more than one Steve, but how did you respond to this?
Oh my goodness, I am raw, man. I'm not an actor, but I act every day, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So who would I like to be? I'd like to just be the natural Steve Fox without any drama.
Yeah, 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 yes, that sounds good. That sounds good. And so when you say you're not an actor, what does it mean that you're not doing?
This is all new to me. This is like Trisha's new to me, except
Yeah.
from 10 years ago. This is like all new. And I'm like a business corporate guy, right?
Oh, yeah,
That
sure.
that's trapped in a creative body, right?
Oh, wow. Okay, that's wonderful. And what kind of business are you in?
Real estate.
Real estate. And so you absolutely know what it is to deal with people's emotions and hopes and dreams and the dedication it takes to execute that and the discipline it takes. I mean, when someone comes to you and says, I'd like to buy a house or whatever kind of real estate you're in, whatever, they have a dream that they're coming to you in, and they're hoping to find a place to plant the dream.
Even more black and white commercial property doesn't
Commercial
make
property.
money.
Even better. Let me tell yeah, exactly. My landlord, who is the landlord of my studio, I've told him many times, this is not just a commercial transaction. You've made my dreams come true.
Mhm.
So when you're in real estate, I can totally appreciate that it's contractual and there's a transactional nature to it. But of course, you're right at the crux and the precipice of where people are bringing their hopes and their dreams straight to you. And so I would
Absolutely.
say this is a lot to do actually with what the actors are experiencing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I guess my relationship is being in service versus, hey, what's in it for me?
Yeah, there, that's so good. Well, then you know much more about acting than you're giving yourself credit for knowing.
Like I
I wish.
said, no more. I don't want any more drama. I only want good drama.
Yeah, exactly. Very good. Well, thank you for sharing all that, everybody. Thank you
Yeah,
so.
thank you.
I see some of you posting here in the things. I learn everything, but I'll always be eager to learn from acting. Every feeling, experience, and moments, a new perspective. My grandparent can teach. He has a parent who gives life advice and knows how to develop at different ages and stages. Bev has to leave in a bit. What is acting to me? Freedom. Yes, this is beautiful. And acting is healing. This is like I'm speaking to the choir here. Tish. This is wonderful. Yes, what I love that I'm not hearing is that acting is a job, that acting is just a thing I do because I don't know what else to do with my life. I absolutely love what I'm hearing, and it's a really wonderful place. The reason I ask about the relationship, and so I'll begin describing a little bit about where I'm coming from. Something I like to do in a new group is give you some of my biases so you know where I'm coming from, so you can see how it might fit with where you'd like to go. But one of the reasons, one of the first and most important things, and so if you're writing anything down, okay, here's number one, you can write down if you want to take some notes. The way that I might see acting, a few biases I have around acting. One is that the truest nature of our reality is relationship, is relationship. Now, the scientists in the room, like my friend Anderson, who was studying this before he got bit by the acting bug, would know, I think, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, but if I remember correctly, the kind of central makeup of an atom is an electron, a neutron, a proton. It's the relationship between them all. And as I'm looking outside, I see the relationship between the sun and the plants and the soils. Everything seems to be, in its truest nature, a relationship. And so I ask, what's your relationship to acting? Because I find that if we can contextualize acting, and I would go so far, of course, Tish, to say contextualize voice acting or any practice in terms of relationship, then it puts us in a place where we may grow with it and it may grow with us. And we come to find, as Remy was saying, and sometimes there's ups and downs to the relationship, and the creativity of that relationship sustains me through those ups and downs. But as I've seen acting as a relationship, I don't see acting the same way I did when I was 18. Thank goodness. Could you imagine anything else in your life you see the same way you saw when you were 18? It'd be like, what, have you been paying attention to anything? Bless my heart. And I'll be 46 this year, so I assume I won't see acting the same way in another 40 years as well. At least I hope. Because it's a relationship. It's ever deepening, ever changing. And as I grow, it grows. And as it grows, I grow. And I love that someone compared it to their grandparents, which is also a relationship. So that's why I asked the question. And I would encourage everybody in the room to reevaluate that question every so often. Do a relational audit with your art form, whether it's acting or painting or dancing or voiceover, whatever your art form is, whatever your corporate life is, whatever it is you do with your life, what is your relationship to it? Now, the reason I phrase it like if it was a person, how would you, just because it gives us some language to use, like a boyfriend who keeps coming back or something, but you may have other language you'd prefer to use. It's the relational nature of art and creativity that I'm trying to point to. The second thing that I see acting as, and this is a bias of mine, but I'll offer it. The second thing I see acting as is a tradition. I see it as a tradition. As you all know, I'm sure, acting was here before you, and it will be here after you. And acting has evolved over, they tell us, thousands of years, but I'll go even a little bit further. My friend Dr. 𝗧𝗶𝗺 𝗦𝘁, who's in Atlanta, she speaks about it going back even further, all the way to any indigenous culture in the world. Wherever you come from, your ancestors were sitting around a fire before they invented iPhones, so a long time ago. They were sitting around fires and they were looking up and they were going, what in the world is this? And so they started dancing out of gratitude and worship to the sun and all the things around them they didn't understand. And eventually that evolved to the Subaru commercial you're doing. Eventually that's where we landed. But it's the same tradition. And I don't know where this is going to be in another 1,000 years. And so by proclaiming yourself as an actor, you're proclaiming your stake in this tradition. And as such, my question to all of you is, what will you add to the tradition? What will you add to this great tradition of storytelling, of acting, of expression? Because the addition of voiceover, I don't know when it would have begun, but it wouldn't have been 100 years ago. That's a significant addition to the tradition of acting, voice acting. And so what will you contribute to the tradition? Your presence, your body, your expression, your imagination, your intelligence. These are contributions to a tradition. So when you decide that this is what you're going to do, you have claimed a stake in a tradition. You're not just doing something. You're going somewhere. And my hope is that you'll see this as a much larger thing. In fact, you're an ancestor in the making. You're an ancestor in the making of this great tradition. So that's a bias of mine. I'll only offer a couple. Here's one that tends to shake people. Well, we won't get to that yet. Anyway, I see this as a practice. If you want to put down number 3, that acting is a practice. And I will go so far as to say voice acting is a practice. It's more like yoga than it is like, I don't know, an equation. It's more like yoga.
One thing that I like to say around that idea of a practice, Benjamin, is it is like a yoga practice, that's something that you do every day and you keep on deepening and exploring. And then also at the dojo, we also think and how doing that every day becomes like your business practice, like your law practice,
Yes,
like
yes.
practice that we don't talk about it. I used to get into fisticuffs with my dad. Like, you're going to play practice? Like, no, Dad, I'm going to rehearsal. I'm not going to play practice. But like, how do we recognize that when we do our daily practice, that is what we do to build our acting practice, like our law practice and medical practice. Yeah, I love that.
Absolutely. And I love that it's called a law practice and a medical practice because there's something about lawyers and doctors who realize this can never be finished. You can never be done. You'll never be I have a master's degree in acting, and I think how silly. You'll never be a master of it. If by master, I mean completing it or anything. It's a practice. And in the context of that practice, like you're saying, Tish, it applies to everything. And it's my favorite thing. And then acting does become the grandparent teaching us about life because I'm in practice. And I have a 2-year-old daughter, and if anybody has a toddler around. I have a 2-year-old. Talk about practice. Listen, everybody, are we family yet? We're family. Said your name. Listen, she's going to be going to preschool soon, and I just don't know that I can handle it. Talk about practice. Like, I'm sure you've all dropped your children off to college or preschool, whatever it is. I don't know how I'm going to handle it. That's what you're doing now, Tish, right? That's what you're doing now.
It seems okay. Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to handle this. I mean, so in the context of practice, what it allows me to do is grow in my relationship with the very thing that I'm doing. And it's in the context of practice that there are no mistakes, of course. Of course. And in fact, I'll say in the context of practice, you can never move backwards. It's only forward if we're thinking linearly, which I don't tend to, but so it's never 2 steps back, 1 step forward. It's only forward for the actor in practice, Thank you. Thank you. Thank you as a preschool teacher, take it one day at a time. Yeah. You might have to throw me some more tips soon. So in the context of practice, I get to see this work in the context of my living, which is what I think Tish is talking about too. And all of life becomes the practice. Then we've really found our way into the piece that my friend Steve is talking about, where there's no drama, none of the good drama, because all of life is a practice. Now, I wish I was better at this. This is one of those things that I can say, and I just wish I was better at, of course. So I do see acting as a practice, and that contextualizes a lot of what I do and how I do it. And the last thing I'll offer about acting is this, and I'll be a little more specific here. I see characters, and characters could be anything from Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman to a brand new anime character that's just been written. Any character you're playing. I see character, even if they're not human, I see them as fully human as you. Now, I know some characters are literally not human. What I'm trying to communicate here is that if something exists in the experience and body of the actor, it's welcome in the experience of the character. So if it exists, it belongs. And so my nerves, when I'm nervous, if I'm acting and I'm nervous, how does that integrate into the character's nerves? If I'm self-conscious, which I am, how does that integrate into the character's self-consciousness? Because I would imagine Hamlet has plenty of self-consciousness to deal with, and so would any other character that you might voice or play on the stage or film or in the voiceover booth. And so this is going to matter when we get into some of our things, that the character is as fully human as you. And now I like that because that means the character is as completely flawed as me. And I don't have to be something other than I am to play someone that I'm not. And so this gets back to what Tish was saying at the very beginning, that really, really being an actor is being a very in tune human. And so the more in tune to my own body and presence and sensations and the things that are living in me, is more in tune with that I am, the more in tune I can be with the experiences that I'm telling through the character's point of view. And so I think you'll see how this begins to connect to some of the work that we're going to do. Now, I call all of this, and in our studio Crash Acting, I call this a non-dominant approach to acting. Now, that may or may not make much sense, and admittedly, it's not a terribly sexy name. I could use a little branding around it. Oh, non-dominant acting. It's not like a big deal here. But what I'm responding to, for those of you who have any formal training, who will understand what I'm responding to. What I'm responding to is what is typically a very top-down approach to character, where the actor tells the character how to be. And I'm suggesting a slightly different way up, a non-dominant approach. Modern Western acting, anyway, is often attributed to some really brilliant Russian teachers that developed their methodologies in the early 1900s. And a critique I might have on the system is that those methodologies just haven't changed a lot. And I'm going, well, we don't build cars the same way we did back then. Why would we do acting the same way? And so this is my attempt, and this is where I feel Tish and I have found some real beautiful common ground. My attempt on bringing life closer to acting and acting closer to life so that we might be in greater union between the two. And you might find that all that is needed, really, truly, it's not an Instagram post, all that is needed is what you already have. What you already have. And so this is growth by subtraction for most of us, growth by subtraction. We're not adding anything to the model here. We're just trying to maybe let some things go so more of you can actually be revealed. And the thing that Tish and I both also share, and this is the voice teacher in me, is that so much of the experience of our life is revealed through the voice, which I love. I love. Now my dancers are gonna see life differently. Thank goodness. Thank goodness they do, maybe. But so much of our expression can live through the voice, and I know this because every night after I teach, I call my wife from the car as I'm coming home. I can tell in an instant how her day has been based on the sound of her voice when she answers the phone. And I go, uh-oh, what's wrong? Or oh, everything's good, you know. Same probably with anybody you love. They call and you can tell instantly. Even if they're trying to fake it, they can tell something's off. The voice is entirely sensitive to the experiences of the body. So this is another place where we align. Now I'll pause here. Any questions coming up or anything coming up for anybody that seems like I'm going, what are you talking about? It's very important to me that we're on at least the same page for a bit. Stanford, how are you doing? How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
And where are you located, Stanford?
I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, but I live in Palo Alto now.
Well, I have been to Cleveland once, and I was just in Palo Alto last week.
Small world, right? Small
It is a
world.
very small world, very small world. Well, I'm very happy you're here today, so thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm pretty excited about trying to get going. You know, I've been working with Melina for a little bit in the background, just coming out of some surgery and some things like that. So just trying to, you know, catch up and see what this new phase of my life holds for me.
Oh, that's an exciting place to be meeting you then. So I'm very happy you're here then at this new stage of your life. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So let me offer now, we'll move into some very subtle, very easy type of how do we apply all of this stuff I'm talking about. Now, in the model of our process in this non-dominant approach, there are 4 points to it. And I'll offer these, but we're not going to stay here for long. But I want to give you just a little bit of a map so you can see that we're actually moving between some things here. But this is just for those of you who want to have something to hold on to. We're going to go right into the experiences that you can actually use on the day, in the booth, or wherever you are. But in this non-dominant approach, very loosely, the first thing that we're going to begin with is the text. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time there today, but if we're going to approach acting at large from this point of view, I begin with the text. And there's ways to approach the text that I find to be inspiring and interesting and stuff, but I'm going to leave that on the table for now. We wouldn't have time to dig too far into that. The second point of our process I'll call belief. Belief. It's very simple. Belief. Belief is just, you know, do you believe what you're saying? I mean, it's not rocket surgery, everybody, as my grandmother would say. It's do you believe what you're saying? In other words, if you're playing Romeo, do you believe you love Juliet? And if so, how do we get there? And so in this non-dominant approach, we very often use the imagination to deepen a belief in the story. And so then when I speak, I'm speaking from a truer place. The third point of our process I call embodiment. This is all very broad, embodiment. How do those beliefs come to the surface of your skin? How do you embody them? How do you embody those beliefs? Because if you're not embodying the beliefs, you're probably just thinking about it. You see, I have lots of beliefs I'm working every day to further embody, if that makes sense. And so my beliefs are guiding my embodiment. At least I hope so. Try to anyway. And then the last point of our process we call play, which is another place that Tish and I meet so beautifully on play. It really has to be playful. And now I mean play with a capital P. That's what I mean play with a capital P. Play to me is a state of being. It's not just a thing you're going to go do necessarily. Text, belief, embodiment, and play. And now this is very broad, but underneath the banner of each of these things, there's lots of fun things that you can come up with and do and play around with, while remaining free and expressive and alive and in the deepening experience of your humanity. So that's a little bit of structure, but I'm just going to dive right into things. I'm going to dive right into things. Now, Tish also knows me and knows and got to actually kind of see the beginning of all this because in 2012, well, 2011, Tish, I don't know that you totally know this, but when I met Tish Stanford, I was in a big shift in my life. I had just gotten divorced and was like kind of at rock bottom and was going through a great deal of grieving of that relationship and going, who am I? What have I done? How did this happen? You know, what was going on? And that's when I met Tish. That's when I met Tish. Let me tell you, there's no better person to meet when you're in those kinds of stages than Tish. And so I was trying to heal myself. And actually, our friend Steve brought this up earlier because Steve knows that service can heal. Service to people can heal both the person you're serving, but actually service tends to heal the person doing the serving. I don't know if you've experienced that, Steve, but I'm sure you have. Yeah. And so here I was in the midst of a moment where I didn't recognize myself. I was trying to put the pieces back together. I was also looking to add on another thing, I was also looking to add service into an actor's perspective and process. And so one day I was crossing the street going to my acting class, and somebody asked me for money and I didn't have any. But I said, I'll pray with you. And I'd never done that. I'm not a street preacher in any way. I'd never done that before, but it felt healing to me. You've ever been somewhere where you know you don't know anything else to do but throw your hands up and say, we have to pray. So I prayed with a stranger in the middle of the street, and I crossed the street and I thought, oh my goodness, I felt I'd been transformed. I did. I thought, how can I find this experience? I said, well, free prayer would be interesting. It'd be an interesting thing to offer people. But I said, that's going to get me in, that's going to take me in too many directions. I said, what's the closest thing to prayer I could? I said, listening might be. So that night I went up to my class. I said, I'm going to hold a sign that says free listening. And anybody who'd like to join can join. So that was 2012. And about 5 years later, the only reason I've been to Cleveland, Stanford, is because I went free listening at the RNC when it was happening there in 2016. I just held a sign that said free listening. And so the free listening movement has taken off, and now it's in 80 countries around the world. And so a great deal of my work has been in the pursuit of what does it mean to be at that level of listening to people and presence to people, strangers on the street. Strangers on the street. We named that movement Urban Confessional. If anybody'd like to look it up or see if there's a group in your town, there likely is, but I don't run it anymore. Somebody can help you do it. It's not a nonprofit. It's not anything. You could do it on your own. You just make a sign that says free listening and go stand on the street corners and let people come up to you. But this experience taught me more about acting than 7 years of formal training did. If you want to learn about acting, make a sign that says free listening and stand on a street corner for a few hours. Because if you want to learn about humanity, go do that. If you want to learn about presence, go do that. And so part of what I learned about listening, and when I'm invited to corporate spaces to speak, of course, listening spoken in corporate spaces is often referred to as active listening. Well, active listening, it kind of freaks me out. Feels like someone's signing me up for a cult or trying to sell me a car. They're going, Bev, I hear what you're saying. It feels very like, stop listening to me. This is really crazy. So what I found listening is, which I find is a shift for my acting, and I think will likely be a shift for your voiceover and voice acting work, is that listening is not active. Listening is receptive. And I don't mean to be playing semantics here, but what I'm trying to communicate is that listening is not something you do. It's a posture you hold. And what I find that when I can do that, not only can I receive the person more completely or receive the script more completely, I can begin to receive myself more completely. And so listening becomes something less than an activity and more like an experience. And so before all of my classes, and I'll walk everybody through this, and I would encourage you to try this or some version of this, before you go into the booth or before you do any of your work in any of your life. And what I call this is prepare to receive, prepare to receive. Now, the other thing you probably need to know about me, which could jeopardize some of my credibility, is that for the last 20 years, I've been playing Ultimate Frisbee. I've been playing Ultimate Frisbee. So for some of you, you might be signing off now. Heather is smiling. Heather, do you play Ultimate Frisbee too? No, you used to, yeah. So I played Ultimate Frisbee my whole life, it seems, since high school. And I used to coach, I used to make a living as a Frisbee coach. Can you believe it? An actor. And why did I quit anything? Why did I change anything? And part of the tradition in Ultimate Frisbee, it's a really wonderful culture. And at the end, Anderson, I can't tell you that name. So we'll talk offline. Yeah, it's not pickleball, right? So part of the culture of Ultimate Frisbee is that after the game, you say good game to the other team, but there's another part of the culture. The teams separate back to their own sides and they develop a cheer for the other team. And it's always in good spirit, and sometimes it's silly and might even involve alcohol. But you might say some silly cheer like, Tish, she's the best. We don't, whatever it is, just some silly thing, that you would do. And the more creative you get, the better. But before you offer them their cheer, you yell to them, Tish, prepare to receive. And that's how Tish knows we're going to offer her a celebration. And so I call this preparing to receive, preparing to receive. Because actors, if you don't prepare to receive, you can't be surprised when it's difficult. So I'll guide you through this, and then I'll give you the steps to it so you can do it on your own. I'll guide you through it, and I'll give you the steps. You can do it on your own. So if you're able to, now some of you might be walking or driving, please just listen. But if you're able to, follow along, and then I'll give you the steps. So if you would, find a way to be easy in your chairs or easy wherever you are. And I'm using that language on purpose. I don't need you to sit correctly. Just find a sense of ease wherever you are. And then let your eyes close for a second. And bring your attention to your feet or to any part of your body that feels particularly held. So it might be your hips in the chair. It might be your feet on the floor. But any part of your body that feels particularly held. And then bring your attention to your heart. And if you would like to place a hand on your heart, that can be helpful, but you don't have to. You don't have to. Just bring your attention to your heart. And ask your heart to soften. Ask your heart to soften. And then bring your attention to the space behind your eyes. And place a gentle smile behind your eyes. And take a second to clock how this inner posture feels. Supported from below, softened in your heart, and smiling behind your eyes. Not to indicate your mood, of course, but just to help ease the opening of the mind. And then you can release your hand if it's on your chest. You can become aware of some sounds around the room. Maybe you can hear something in your room. Then you can let your eyes open and go wherever they'd like to go. So Camille, how was that for you?
Well, that was wonderful. I'm not sure exactly where in the process it was, but there was a noticed dip in my stress level, right? Where I was before noticeably dipped into the calm response.
That's nice. Yeah, I felt that too from what I was doing just now. It was very nice. Very, very nice. Wonderful. So that's a very quick thing to do that I begin every class that way. Not because we've got to be in some state before we can begin at all, at all. You can begin wherever you are. But because preparing to receive allows me to at some point be ambushed by inspiration, ambushed by creativity. And so let me give you the steps to that so you can play with this on your own. The first is to find a way to be easy. And that language is important, I find, because I'm not saying sit upright or sit in the right posture, although that might be helpful to you too, but I just say be easy because I don't know where you're at today and I don't know what access to ease you have, but can you be as easy as you can? Easy like Sunday morning, that's what comes to my mind. So you might be seated or standing. And you find a way to be easy. I like to close my eyes, but that just helps me focus, but you don't have to. So sometimes I offer close your eyes if you'd like. And then the first place to give my attention is to something supporting me. Right now, it feels like kind of my butt in my chair and let the chair hold me. For many of us, the feeling of being held is not something we experience a lot. And so to be held by the floor or your chair is the first thing that many of us need if we're going to find real truth in our work, especially in the voiceover booth. If you're standing in a booth, whatever, can you feel the floor supporting you? And then the next thing that I offer is to bring your awareness to your heart and then ask it to soften. Don't tell it to soften. Don't make it soften. Just ask. Just wherever you are today, whatever. Yeah, just a request. Because the softening of the heart, I find, when the heart and the body are softened, it's more difficult to resist what's happening. That's all. That's all. But I'm not suggesting that we make ourselves vulnerable necessarily to the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune that our world just ask, can you soften today? On some days, it can be quite wonderful. On other days, my heart goes, no, I'm not in the mood. And I go, oh, that's fine. That's fine. And then the last thing, of course, is not that I just say smile behind the eyes. Now, that's not to indicate your mood at all. And if you'd like to use different language, I don't mean to say you've got to be smiling behind your eyes. Just a way, an image to help me open the front of my mind. And sometimes that's the most helpful. Because if I'm like you or you're like me, I can overthink sometimes. And I start going, oh my gosh, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Should I be taking notes? Is this the right webinar I should be at right now? What else have I got to do today? You know, I just can get all up into my hamster wheel. And when I smile behind my eyes or I offer myself that image, the wheel slows down a little bit for me. And I feel more able to receive what's going on. So those are the steps. And I would encourage you to do that as often as you'd like. I don't know that you could overdo this, but I would encourage you certainly to do it before you go into the booth or before you prepare an audition or anything like that. And I think that it can put us in a place where we might receive some inspiration that perhaps previously we had not necessarily seen. So if there's not any questions about that experience, we'll keep moving on. But if there are, go ahead and put them in the chat. Or Cheryl says that was just what she needed. So good. I'm glad. I'm glad. It's not a bad way to start your day too, I suppose, or in the middle of your day even. Okay. After smiling behind the eyes, I felt a micro muscles move and forehead tension reduce. Heather, yes. Isn't that wild? Listen, the first time I ever got like a massage, I think I was in high school, I think, maybe college. I don't quite remember, but I do remember this. The first time I got it, I realized how tense I was. I had been in such blissful ignorance of the tension in my body until someone showed me how tense I was. And part of me is going, I wish I had never gotten a massage, and then I never would have known how tense I really was. So yeah, when we smile behind the eyes, these little muscles begin to sometimes release. I go, my goodness, I didn't even realize I was holding my brow the way I was holding it. So yeah, absolutely. This is above and beyond acting for me. Oh, I'm happy to hear that, Micah. Yeah, absolutely. Getting present, Camille. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I would say 99.83% of acting, and of course, living and voiceover and voice acting. And since I gave a statistic, it's definitely true. It's just about being present, just about being present. And if you can be present, you're 99.837% there.
Also,
Yeah.
Ben, you made me realize that like how that was it was so simple, so like, duh, yeah, I should slow down and breathe, but also really empowering exercise because it's like, oh yeah, I'm not at the whims of like all the craziness going on around me. I can just take a moment for myself and slow down. So that was really powerful. I liked it.
Well, I love that you said that and deeply appreciate it. Part of the intention behind a non-dominant approach to acting is to help the actor restore their own autonomy in the work, so that you don't have to have someone telling you what to do. But you might like to have a coach or something and be a wonderful experience. But something I know Tish and I share is, and I mean, the way I phrase it here in Los Angeles, and I'm being a little cheeky, so excuse me. I said I want nothing to do with being on set with anybody as a coach. I don't want to be there with anybody. I want you to know what to do for your own work. I don't want to babysit actors. But when you do hire a coach and you're in your own autonomy, it can be a really beautiful experience. So it makes me happy you
Yeah,
said that.
we talk about just this concept of empowerment from the beginning. Not that you wouldn't be in relationship, that a coach, the reason that you have a coach, the reason that you have representation is because they're part of your team to make you more empowered. You don't need them, but they contribute to your empowerment, your understanding that you are everything you need. Yeah. Lots. We've been talking about that around here. So
That's
yeah.
great. Yeah. And that brings me back, as you're saying, that brings me back to relationship, of course, which is two people entirely themselves, or however many in many relationships you have, but in these two people coming together as one, they have to be in their own space first in order to create something. My goodness, don't we all keep learning that over and over as we live, just doing the best we can? So yeah, thank you for saying that, Kelsey. That means a lot. Thank you. Okay, so moving on. Now, there's another part about acting. Now, there's a very famous definition about acting that I'll offer to everyone, especially for those of you who may be new to acting. For those of you not new to acting, you will certainly know what this definition is. There's a great acting teacher named 𝗧𝗶𝗺 𝗦𝘁, who had been one of the famous acting teachers of the 20th century. And his definition of acting was basically, I'll give my paraphrase of it, truthful behavior in imaginary circumstances. That's what he called acting. It's truthful behavior in imaginary circumstances. And that's a pretty solid definition of this thing, acting. Now, the way we're speaking about it, it's a much broader thing, and I love to think in those ways too. That's really how I think most of the time. But on the day, truthful behavior in imaginary circumstances is a pretty good definition or description of what acting is. And so you can imagine that in the midst of that description, well, what's truthful behavior? What's behavior? I mean, and this is where the acting theorists come into play here. But I'd like to stick with that first word. I'd like to stick with that first word, truthful, truthful. And so I'd like to take a look at this word and offer you a perspective on it that will guide us into the next exercise. That'll guide us into the next exercise. And so, well, we live in a world, of course, all of us live in this world where truth, what are we even talking about anymore? As soon as social media came on board, it seemed like truth was a whole different thing. And truth with a capital T or lowercase t. So we can argue about what truth means, and artists can have fun doing those things. But here's what I'd like to offer. That truth in this work, in acting, is a matter of distance between you and the thing you say. Or for the artist, between you and the thing you create. The more distance, the less true. So, well, okay. I didn't grow up to be a huge Joni Mitchell fan. I don't know if anybody's a Joni Mitchell fan here, but I didn't grow up with her. I grew up with James Taylor and some of my parents were listening to, and that's where, but I never got into Joni Mitchell. And frankly, for a while, I found her music to be a little too dissonant and a little too poetic for me. I didn't like the melodies and I just didn't get it. I didn't totally get it. Now, I knew she was good. I just didn't listen to it. I hope everybody can hear what I'm trying to say. Well, but then I met my wife, and she's a big Joni Mitchell fan. She herself, my wife, is a musician, and so I started listening to it kind of from her ears. And one day, I took Joni Mitchell's album Blue, and I don't know how or why I did this, but I said I'm just going to listen to this because if my wife says she's as good as she is, maybe I'm missing something. And so then I put on Blue, the album Blue, which is one of Joni Mitchell's famous albums, and I went, oh, oh. And maybe I had developed to a point where I could hear her. But what I was understanding was whether you like her music or not is irrelevant. What I was experiencing, that what she was singing and what she was saying was so close to who she was, every note of it was true. Every note of it was true. Now, there's many artists who do this. You do this. You do this. But when something is so close to who I am, it's true. You see, as the artist. And so I can listen to lots of types of music, and I may not listen to that style. It may not be my form it may not be my aesthetic, but I can hear it's true. And that is my measure for the actor. Is it true? Not was it right? Not did you say it right? Not was it, but was it true? The other thing that comes to mind about this is that you may, with acting, people say, how do you cry? How do you cry? Everyone wants to know how to cry in their acting. And that's like the big fear for an actor. They cry. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to cry. It's like proof of my involvement, tears or something. And so there'd be tricks and tips that I don't teach, but people try to get to. Well, if you could imagine that Tish and I are at a cafe one day, and that there is somebody at the table next to us and they're having an argument, and it's a marital argument, so they're doing it under their breath and they're saying things that we don't understand. And the woman at one point starts to clench her teeth and starts to almost cry, but she's holding it back in, and the man gets up and he leaves. And she sits there alone, processing whatever has just happened, and Tish and I are watching. And she doesn't know that we're watching. And so she starts to kind of cry to herself, but there are no tears. And it seems as if her heart has been shattered, broken, and thrown to the winds at the same time as Tish and I are walking. So I stop her. I say, listen, that's not how you cry. Could you do it differently? That's not how this should go. Can you cry differently, please? Anyway, Tish was mortified. I said, but that's not the right way to cry. That's not the right way to cry. I need more tears. I need it to look differently. See, this is how a lot of us approach acting. But the truth is, of course, the truth would be, this didn't happen, of course, but the truth would be, this is such a true moment for this person. How could they ever do it wrong or right? It's truthful because the expression is so close to the person, it can't be discussed. And so I would like to believe this, perhaps the most controversial thing I'll say, is that you can work at such a level of truth that the work you're doing is uncritiquable, not unshiftable or changeable, but it was true. What am I going to say? That's how it goes. Now, can you do it differently? Can you do it differently? But what's happening is true. And as a director, I'd rather have truth to deal with. And if I want the truth to sound different, I can do that. But to get an actor to truth is the real skill of the actor. At that point, I can be in collaboration and we can do it however you'd like to do it. But I've got to find the truth first. Okay. So I'm going to take everybody through an exercise. Now, I'll do the same thing. I'll walk you through it. And then I'll describe the steps so you can continue to practice it. Now, this exercise is going to ask you to make a little bit of sound. I'll demonstrate it as we go, okay, if you'd like. And if you're not in a place where you can make sound, don't worry about it. If you're at work, don't go doing this exercise. People think something weird's going on in the office next to them. But if you're in a place where you can make sound, stay on mute, and I'll encourage you to make some sound. Make some sound. But what we're going to do is explore the sounding of truth. That's what we're going to do. Okay, and so this is an exercise I call sounding the body. And this is something you can do on your own, something you can do as kind of a cross training for your voice acting, just to continue to sensitize your body and the expression to that body. And so we'll call this sounding the body, sounding the body. Now, I'll demonstrate first, and then I'll guide you through it, and then I'll give you all the steps to it so you can do it on your own. So, sounding the body. What I'm going to do first is I might close my eyes just to be helpful because my dog is barking. I don't know if you can hear her. And so as she's barking, I can feel some tension in my chest because I want her to shut up. You know how it is like that with dogs. So I can feel this little tension in my chest. So I'm going to close my eyes and I feel the tension in my chest. And I'm going to imagine that the tension in my chest gets a voice. The tension in my chest gets a voice. And so I'm just going to make the sound of that tension. Now I'm going to add vibration, so it's not just breath. I'm going to make the sound of the tension. That's it. I just sounded. My toddler does this all day. I'm just sounding my body. Now I might look for another sensation. I'm just looking for sensations in my body. So let me think. Well, I can feel my hips pressing against the chair, and it feels nice. And if my hips had a sound right now, it would sound like this. Just kind of easy and nice. Now you might have a headache. I wonder what your headache sounds like. You might be hungry. What does your hungry stomach sound like? The point of this is to say, what is the most truthful thing I can express? And that is the experience of my body. And as I'm taking a breath and my chest feels tight, what does that sound like? And I'm going back to truth being a measure of distance between you and the thing you're expressing. And if I can express the pain in my knee, that's a truthful sound. That's a truthful sound. Now, this is easier said than done. So if you're in a place where you can make a little sound, I'm going to walk you through this. I'll walk you through this. And you can make some sound. And then we'll be done with the sounding of things. This can be embarrassing to do. But this is our job, of course. So again, I'm not looking for how should my painful knee sound. I'm asking, what is the sound of my knee? And then I just make it. You can imagine a vocal cord from your knee to your voice if you'd like. But everything in the body deserves the dignity of being heard. And so let's see if we can offer our bodies a little dignity of that expression. So if you would, find a way to be easy in your chair or wherever you're standing. And again, if you're not in a place where you can do this, I'll just invite you to listen and I'll give you the steps you can practice in your car when you're driving home. And then let your eyes close just so you can bring your awareness to the experiences in your body. Now, I'll just ask an easy question. What's a primary sensation you feel in your body? You might feel this is ridiculous. What am I doing here? And that might do something to your chest. You might have a headache. There might be some tension in your shoulders, or maybe you feel great and you just feel at peace and your stomach is wide open feeling. Pick a sensation. Anything. It could be a small one, it could be a big one. And imagine it had a voice. What would it sound like? And on the count of 3, see if you can make that sound. 1, 2, 3.
Mm.
You might want to try again. Maybe there's another sensation. Steve, I think you might not be muted. Steve's doing it perfectly. He's doing it perfectly. You might find another sensation in your body to sound. You might want to laugh. That sensation, the tickle in your chest, you might want to sound it. It might sound like a laugh. Now, you might want to take it a step further. And so you might want to demonstrate this. You might want to add a little text to it. And so you might want to do this. Okay, I can feel a tingling in my stomach. And I'm going to make the sound of it. And then I'm going to say a line of my text. So I might feel the tingle. I make the sound, to be or not to be. That is the question. That's where I'm at right now. To be or not to be. That is the question. So I'm going from experience to expression to the text. And that is truthful. Is it the right way to say the line? I don't care. I don't know. But it's truthful. Why is it truthful? Because I'm showing you and sounding the closest thing to my body. which is me, which is the sensations and feelings in my body. You're hearing them. You know this on a daily basis. When you're at the airport or you're in public or you're at the park and you hear a baby crying, you know the difference between a baby who's crying and a baby who's in trouble, don't you? When you're at a party or when you're around somebody, I've been in a party once when someone got bad news and I heard them wailing. I said, that's different. That's not a regular upset. You can hear it. They're sounding the story of their body. And it's the most truthful expression we can offer the world via our voice. And when you sound the story in your body, the sensation in your body, you're in the world of truth. Now, somebody might want a different version of it, but the practice is for me to, can I express my experience? So that when I have an audition or I have text in my hands and I have to play a character and the story creates an experience in me, can I express that experience? That's where this goes. That's where this goes. Eventually, the actor's body is changed by the story they're telling. Then they express that. They express that. So here are the steps to sounding the body. You can write these down and practice it on your own. Now, this is not an easy thing to do. And I have to put an asterisk here. Many of us have been taught not to sound our bodies. And I'm down with that. I don't need everybody, I'm at walking around Target. I don't need everybody screaming, I'm down with polite society, okay? I don't want to be on an airport with people sounding their bodies. I understand. But we have been programmed not to sound our bodies. So there are sounds that might feel uncomfortable to make, sounds that we don't want to make in our bodies, pain, pleasure, things that sound inappropriate or just sound disturbing. So you may come up against some of that, and it's okay. You don't have to sound anything you don't want to sound, ever, ever. But here are the steps. The first is to get easy in your body, kind of like always. It's a good place to start always, with ease. If you start there, you'll likely end there. It's a good rule. So start in ease. And then just ask yourself, I'm using the word sensation, but what's something going on in my body that I can feel? What's happening? You might have a name for it. You might say, I feel sad. That's okay. Or you might not have a name for it, like you have human sparkles, like Camille says. And then can you make the sound of them? Like if they had a voice, what would they sound like? I'll encourage you to make vibration as opposed to breath. So not but which of course is sound. And there's no wrong way to do any of this at all. If you had human sparkles in your chest, you could sound it like that. This is just a practice. Because on the day when you're asked to tell a story, I want your body, your voice, to be able to sound the truth of that story in only a way that you can do it. So that Kelsey's Hamlet would be decidedly different than mine. But not because Kelsey's reading of it would be entirely different, but because Kelsey's body is entirely different and their experience is entirely different to the story. So something else is sounded. And when it's true, it cannot be touched. It's true. So you can't compare Joni Mitchell to Eminem. I didn't think that sentence would come out of my mouth today. But you can't compare the two, not because they're different, but because both of them are true. And they couldn't possibly be like one another. That's the beauty of all of this work we're doing. Any questions about sounding the body? Any questions about sounding the body? Okay, very good. Well, moving on then.
Statement about sounding the body was like, it feels like having a magic wand. Like it just feels like, oh, that's simple, but then like
Yeah,
possibilities are endless when you have something that simple that connects the things. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a really wonderful. I love the way you're saying that, like a magic wand, because our bodies are magic wands. They really are, as you know, Tish. I mean, my goodness, our bodies are magic wands. And from the point of view of expression, certainly, you know. And one of the things that I didn't say about acting, but I'll share with everybody since you kind of just brought it up, is this, that all you really need to be an actor, really all you need is a sensitive body and a crazy imagination. You just need those two things. That's all you need. That's all you need. If you've got that, you can believe you're on Mars or you can believe you're Hamlet. It doesn't, whatever. You can do whatever. And so much of the training that we do at Crash Acting through all of our modalities at Crash is just, are we sensitizing the body? Are we heightening the imagination? We're doing these things, and sounding the body is a practice of sensitizing my body. That's Yeah. So if you do that, you pretty do anything. Again, this whole thing, as we talk about play, and I'm telling everyone about my 2-year-old daughter, the whole thing is how do I return to the very childlike essence that still lives within me? If we can find that, there's really nothing we can't do in form of expression or acting or voice acting. It really is just you're going into the playground and can you play freely? That is actually what this is about. Yeah. As much as we make it about all these things, I understand, but can you just go down the slide? Can you go down the slide? Okay, very good. Very good. All right, well, moving on then. Moving on then. This is fun. This is fun. Okay. Okay, great, great, great. Okay, let's see. Well, okay, I'm gonna take us into two more things, and then I think we'll be done. So I might move a little more quickly, but I want to be very clear that these two things I think are going to be integral for your work in the booth. And so what we did before with sounding the body and preparing to receive, that to me is stuff you can do outside of the booth and in the booth, of course, but outside the booth. These two things I'm going to suggest you might be able to actually do on the day of the audition or the job or whatever it is, when you're in front of the mic, whether you're in a booth or you're at your home studio or wherever you are. These are two things I find are very, very applicable, very practical to the day, So that's what we'll be moving. Now, the first is an exercise I'll just walk everybody through very quickly to show you a certain bit. It's the exploration of the posture. So we've been talking about preparing to receive, sounding the body, eventually the story living in your body. And even as I'm doing it, I'm going, I don't know where everybody's at today. I don't know, when you put a microphone in front of somebody, I mean, everything seems easy until somebody says, okay, your turn, and then all of a sudden, like this shows up. Yeah, everybody's totally ready to go until it's time to go. It's kind of how it works. And I'm the same way. I'm totally the same way. I talk about acting literally 40 hours a week. It's my favorite thing in the world to do, and I've been doing it for so long. And still, when I go, my goodness, I'm going to go do this with everybody today, I'm going, do I know what I'm doing at all? Do I know what's happening at all? Why am I here? What am I doing? So I'm going to walk everybody through something, and then I'll give you the steps to it, of course. But this is an effort to create room in your experience so that all the things can exist and come out of you. That's what this is about. So this is something that I often do before I teach, and something you can do before you perform in any of the modalities you may be performing in. So if you would, you might find a way to be easy and go ahead and close your eyes. Go ahead and close your eyes, and I'll walk you through this rather quickly and so that we can find what we're looking for. So I'd like you to imagine now that your eyes are closed, some of you are on camera, some of you are not, but I'd like you to imagine that you can assume what I'll call an inner posture, an internal posture, an internal posture. And I'd like you to find the internal posture of not wanting to be seen, not wanting to be seen. Sometimes if you're like me, I go to a party or something and I just really don't want to be there and I don't want people to look at me or see me or notice me, and I might hang out in the corner. So can you find that internal posture? Don't worry, we won't stay there long. The internal posture of not wanting to be seen, hoping nobody notices you. Now that might affect your external posture. You might find you're hiding your face. That's all fine. You can follow all of that. What is the experience of not wanting to be seen? For some of us, we step into the booth or in front of the mic or onto the stage and we can contract and feel like I don't want anyone to notice me. What am I doing here? Now we may go into a sounding of the body if you'd like. What does it sound like to not want to be seen? What does that sound like to you? Okay. And now you can shake that out. Shake out that posture. Okay, okay. We explored that a little bit. Shake that one out. Shake that one out. Okay, very good. Now close your eyes again. I'm going to slingshot you to the other side. Can you find the internal posture of wanting to be seen? Look at me, I'm amazing. I'm in the dojo, I know what I'm doing, I'm amazing. What is the internal posture of wanting to be seen? Now, this feels like peacocking to you, go ahead and do it. This is the posture you want your agent to notice. Look at me, I'm amazing, whatever it is. And some of this is true and some of this is beautiful. And so where can you find the internal posture of hoping that you'll be noticed? Hoping you'll be noticed. Choose me, look at me, I'm the one working, I'm doing it. We might even call this the good actor. I'm the good actor. I trained, I know what I'm doing. Yes, these days we feel wonderful and it's like, look at me, everybody. This is who you hope your agent notices. This is who you hope your family notices. I told you it'd be worth it. And if this feels like peacocking, please do it. I'm inviting you to find this posture. And if you'd like to sound this posture, you can sound this posture. What's it sound like to want to be seen, to want to be Here I am, world. Here I am. Okay, very good. Now you can shake that out too. Shake that one out. Shake that out. Shake out. Now, if I can use this language just to make a point, we just explored the good actor. And before we explored the bad actor, yeah, when we have our doubts and I don't want to be seen and I don't want to be noticed. And we explored the good actor. I know what I'm doing. This is wonderful. And so we just explored the polarities of our experience. But now I'd invite you to find something else. And with your eyes closed, can you find the experience of not wanting to be seen and not wanting to be seen, but just the experience of allowing yourself to be seen? What is the internal experience of allowing yourself to be seen? So not the good actor or the bad actor, just the actor who is. The actor who is excited to do this, but also gets nervous. The actor who loves when the microphone is put in front of them and then also goes, I can't believe I'm doing this. The actor who loves to audition and also hates to be evaluated. The actor who is, the actor who is. And the actor who is right now, I don't know who the actor will be later. We'll call this your isness. Your isness. Call it your isness.
Yeah.
And if you'd like, what's the sound of your isness? For me right now, it sounds like this. That's my isness. And I would invite you to find your isness before you step into the booth every time. Your isness is your business. Yes, yes, that's so good. Yes. And this posture is a physical experience. And that's what I want to drive home here. It's not an idea, your isness, but a physical experience. And it's a physical experience that creates room for all the things inside of me and allows for me to be who I am, when I am, if I can, right now, and the version of who I am right now. Maria says, it's a very emotional exercise for me. Since I gained a lot of weight from my illness, I always feel like hiding. I have to force myself to meet people and be social. It's hard when you're not connected to yourself. It is something I have to work with and protest against when acting. Yes. Or yeah, it is something, yes, absolutely. I can totally appreciate that. And it can feel sometimes that being on our isness is like being with somebody we don't know anymore. And so I would encourage you to work slowly and cautiously through this so that you might return to a version of who you were and who you continue to be. So you may show up like that, both in your voiceover work and in your acting. And this is a very gentle and physical way to do that. So thank you for sharing that, Maria. That means a lot. So here are the steps to finding your isness. Bye, Elena. Here are the steps to finding your isness. First, we're exploring the polarities, and we're doing that on purpose. A lot of us have worked very hard not to have those thoughts anymore. And you're going, Ben, you just told me to have them again. I'm trying not to doubt myself. I'm trying not to, I understand. And how's that working out? Everybody, it's still showing up. I don't want to demonize the doubt and the self-consciousness and the days that I feel like, what am I doing? So I'll begin in that polarity, and then I'll slingshot myself to the other side so that I might find the middle. That middle experience is our isness. And when you're speaking from your isness, the things you say are true because it's my thisness. My isness takes me to my thisness. And here we go. So those are the steps to it. Find the polarities, and then you'll experience the middle. Now, it's faster for me now. I can just go straight to the middle, but I've been practicing for a while. So some days you might have to go, okay, yeah, look at me. Okay, what is the middle place here where more things are welcome? More things are welcome. Thank you for sharing that too, Micah. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so last, Camille, it's so wonderful to meet you. Thank you for being here. Okay, so last thing that I'll offer to everybody, last thing I'll offer. And that is this. So much of acting and so much of voice acting and something I remember a aha moment in Tish's class 15 years ago or 13 years ago. The aha moment in that class for me was I'm speaking into a mic, but if that's all I do, it sounds like I'm speaking to a mic. The presence of the other person has to be there. And I remember, Tish, we were doing maybe a commercial copy or something of this, and still the presence of the person I was trying to talk to had to be in my awareness. And that was such an aha moment to me. And I thought, oh my gosh, you actually have, you can't just read. You actually have to speak to somebody. You know, I mean, this is like, duh. But I remember the moment in front of the microphone going, oh, how much easier it is if I'm speaking to somebody. Anyway, it was an aha moment. I remember being in your house in that closet, whatever it was, being like, oh yeah, I wasn't speaking to anybody. I was just reading the copy. Okay, so I'm going to offer this very quick exercise so you can always be speaking to someone. So you can be speaking to somebody. I call this the presence of the absence, the presence of the absence. And so this has been a game changer for me and for any actor doing monologues. Don't we all love to do monologues where there's nobody in front of you and you pretend like you can see them? Listen, stop pretending you can see people. I mean, if that's helpful to you, do it. But a lot of us can't actually see anybody and our brain's going, there's nobody there, but I'm trying to see Hamlet and he's not there. I'm trying to. So there's more than one way to connect with another person. You can connect visually, of course. But when there's nobody there, say that you're in the booth and there's not the other person that's actually with you, then can I connect with them kinesthetically through my body? Can I connect to the absence of their presence? Now, you do this all the time. You do this when you think about somebody you love who's not with you right now. They may have passed on, but they might just be down the street. And if you were to think about the person that you love and just experience them next to you, you can feel them with you. We say this all the time. I can feel their presence. We say it all the time. Actors have to deal with this a lot on set because very often the person they're speaking to is not actually there. The camera is there on them, but the person is not there. They might be speaking to a dot or an eye line. So you have to experience the person with you. So I'm going to walk you through something just very briefly, but it'll give you a sense of what it is to play with the presence of the absence. So you can do this on your own. So if you would find a way to be easy and close your eyes, we have about 10 minutes left, and this is only going to take 2. As you can see, we're starting them all the same way. Get easy and close your eyes. That's usually enough. So it's telling me my internet connection is unstable. Okay, it says I'm back. Okay. So if you would bring your attention to the space behind you. We'll call it your backspace, the space behind you. Some of you may be up against a wall or on a chair, but you might have some space behind you. And if you could even imagine some space behind you, we call it your backspace. Now, I'd like you to think of somebody in your life that you love. It could be a friend, family member, someone you love. I'd encourage you not to don't think of anybody with whom you have a very complicated relationship, just somebody you love, somebody whose presence matters to you. And I'd like you to imagine that they are behind you, that they are standing behind you. And perhaps as you can sense them behind you, maybe a little bit of your body shifted. Maybe your breath changed a little bit to imagine this person behind you. Now I'd like you to imagine they're walking a little closer to you. And maybe they're about a foot away from your back. If they were breathing, you might feel their breath on your neck. Can you sense them behind you? If you're seated and they're standing, can you sense they're taller than you? You just feel in your body. You don't have to see them. Don't worry about what they look like. You may know. And now, would you invite them to stand at your left side? Maybe they'll come, if you like, you can invite them to stand next to you on your left side. Can you sense their presence now with the left side of your body? If I'm seated, can I sense their presence with my shoulder? Just sense that they're there. You don't have to look. Now, if you'd like, can you invite them to come stand in front of you? Maybe they're standing and you're seated, so they're a little taller. What is it like to feel like this, that they're here? If you'd like to invite them to sit down with you, maybe they're seated in front of you. In your mind's voice, you might even have a little conversation. How are you doing? What are you doing here? Maybe they have something to tell you. Can you listen? And if you're in the midst of a little dialogue, perhaps you can find a nice ending to the dialogue. You might say, I'll see you later. And imagine them standing up again and now moving to your right side. so that the presence of this person you love is standing next to you on your right side. I can sense them with my right shoulder. I just sense that they're there. There's a presence I can feel. Then you might imagine they return back to the space behind you, and now there's somebody behind you. And since we're on Zoom, I would be able to see them. And then you might imagine that they're drifting off. And right before they leave you, they bow. Oh, it's nice to be here with you today. And perhaps you can return the gesture just to let them know, thanks for coming. And they drift off and return to the place from whence they have come, leaving you once again alone, empty in your backspace. As maybe you can allow yourself to hear something in the room, and then open your eyes and see something you hadn't seen before, maybe in your room. Okay. So that's what I call the presence of the absence. And for some of you, you might have actually felt somebody was there with you. And this is how they make money in horror, or well, horror for sure, but haunted houses. Haunted houses are all about the presence of the absence. You know, you feel somebody's there and they're going to jump and scare you. And what I mean to illuminate here is that you don't have to have a physical body in front of you to connect kinesthetically to someone.
Mhm.
You don't have to see them to connect to them. And so when you step into the booth, if you can invite the presence of the person you're talking to, a character or just anybody, and actually speak to the presence instead of to a visual or to a focus line, I find that it can elicit a more truthful experience in you. So I play with the presence of the absence a lot. You can invite Hamlet to you and to have a chat with Hamlet if you'd like. It can be really fun. Again, we're only limited by what we're willing to imagine and what our body is able to experience. So I'll walk through the steps of that very briefly in case you'd like to practice on your own. The first is to get easy and close your eyes. I begin in the backspace. Now, the reason I do that is because that's our least protected space. For most of us, that's the most sensitive place. I mean, if you told somebody there's someone behind you, you can get chills down their back, you know. And so it's very sensitive. And if I'd like a character to show up, I start them there. Then I move them to my left side because I've got like a 60 or 80% chance of you being right-handed. Some of you are left-handed. I'm just going, my left side is more sensitive than my right side. In other words, it's less defended. So I go to my left side and they can stay there. They can go home. You can do whatever you want to do. I bring them around to the front, which is the hardest. It's hard to believe something is in front of us because we're so easily able to tell. But if I can feel their presence in front of me, then I can speak directly with them, to them. And on the day when the mic is in front of me, I now have an other I can speak to that I feel. Not that I'm imagining or sensing, but my body feels they're there. Then whatever happens, we finish up, and then I just complete the circle because I'm, I guess, OCD like that. So they got to go the right side, and then they leave again. Now I always bow at the end because I like to ritualize the experience. Just thanks for coming. And that's the presence of the other. So you never have to feel as if there's not somebody you're speaking to while you're in the booth.
Mhm.
Anyway, I hope that's helpful. And I hope that didn't feel like it was too LA for you, you know, a little nuts, Tish. But I have found that to be a very helpful experience in my work.
Yeah, I think what it does is connect. It's like, it's like seeing through your heart instead of seeing through your eyes. And I think sometimes when you aren't in practice of letting your crazy imagination go wherever it is and being and being in tune, so being sensitive, when we're used to doing things like, well, I'll see somebody, well, then I have to see them. Like it delinearizes, if that's a word.
Yes. Wow, that's a great word. Yeah.
It like, no, it doesn't have to be in order. It needs to be there, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was so good. And everything's so simple.
It is, yeah.
It's so simple. Yeah. One
But
of
that's
our,
a wonderful way to say it because it really is about experiencing the other and not
yeah,
just focusing at them or something like that.
yeah. One of our sensei Shannon, in addition to being an extraordinarily gifted voice actress, she also does medium work, which is, the ultimate, like, but like that's not LA, that's beyond LA. But
Yes, that's what I say.
it
Yes,
might
absolutely.
it might be too much for somebody, but it's really powerful to have experienced working with her in that sensibility, like the ultimate sensitivity of how you can be working. Yeah, that's cool. And
Well,
then
thank you, Tish, for having me. Thank you for having me.
yes, so good to have you here, Benjamin. I'm so like excited about the possibilities of what else we can do. This has been a fantastic beginning. And thank you all, even though I can't necessarily see y'all, because webinar, whatever, I can feel you all. I can feel the transformation that has happened in this room. If I can't see you, even if you haven't said anything in the chatty chat, like you can feel something different here. So this is fantastic. What I'd love to do is uh kind of wrap up in and share how we can keep in touch with you, Benjamin. And then Kelsey. Oh, actually, I wanted to have Anderson share how well, let's have Kelsey share what's going on, and then Anderson share how to keep in touch and keep connected and keep on the path with the dojo. So introduce Anderson and how to keep in touch with him. And then if you have a few more minutes, Benjamin, we can, and anybody who has a few more minutes, we can open it up to questions about this. And I love the dojo O's that have been coming through, but maybe we can share those into the room as well, what you'll be taking with you from this session. So Benjamin, well, how do we get to keep in touch with you? How do we get to work with you more? I know you have so many things that.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of ways that we can work together if anybody wants to continue. You can always go to our website, crashacting.com, where we have the books I've written on acting. We have the retreats and workshops. I've got an intensive in New York City coming up in September. I've got a week-long retreat in Ireland coming up in October. And of course, I have classes in Los Angeles in person 4 times a week. So if you happen to be out here, it's a great place to meet. But we also have an online studio, which is a self-guided. There's 3 different levels to that. And there's one that's just entirely self-guided, another where you get to work with me more regularly, but you can do that from anywhere in the world. And so in the online studio, we go through all of these principles and we get to work together online. So anywhere in the world that you are. Yeah, I'll be in Ireland in October. Twice a year, I do a surfing and acting retreat in Ireland. But don't worry, nobody knows how to surf. It's just all part of it. So, and then in September 18th through 20th, I'm doing a 3-day intensive in New York, if anybody's up there. So, but always you can find me on Instagram at Crash Acting. And if you DM me on Instagram, I'm the one who responds. So
yeah. And really, sometimes we talk about like broadcast is the cousin of voiceover. I do feel like Crash is family, even though this is the beginning of seeing, hopefully seeing each other regularly and, come stay, like that it feels so family is family. So it's just kind of welcome. So I'm excited about that.
I'll begin with character. Now, of course, I use character, but I don't believe the actor plays the character. I believe the actor reveals the character. In other words, character is revealed through the actor's involvement in the story. And so I'll speak about character when I'm speaking about the page. Hamlet on the page is the character. But the minute the person gets involved, I'm speaking about you. And so if you were playing Hamlet, it's just you up there. It's your body, it's your breath, it's your sweat, it's your presence. The audience is going to see Hamlet. You'll be revealing Hamlet to us. But Hamlet is revealed through your presence and your body. So I would never say that an actor is playing a character. I might say they're revealing character to us, but they're doing that by virtue of their involvement in the character's story. So it's a slightly different perspective. So it's not about the playing of a character, but the revelation of one, which is a different relationship to me. So in other words, the actor is an artist of origin, like a painter and a writer. You should sign your name to your work. You're not just a conduit for the playwright. You are there revealing character through your body, and nobody else can do that the same way that you can. So that's a brief little take on character. I could speak for years on it, of course.
Right. But it's one interesting thing that comes through to me. Revelation has some of that holy spiritual divine phraseology when you experience it that way, right? Yeah.
It's very, and then I don't have to worry, am I playing am I playing Hamlet right? Or I'm not playing anything at all. I'm just involved in his circumstance. You see Hamlet. It's just me up here going through a fictional experience. The other word, choice, is a word I really avoid. In fact, you can see on our Instagram, I actually speak against using the word, but not because it's a bad word or anything. I'm speaking philosophically here. I don't use, and I understand what people mean by it, make a choice on something, and this gets me in some hot water sometimes. But the problem I have with actors making choices is not that there was a choice that was made, it's that they often marry the choice they've made. And they make the choice prior to experiencing it, So they decide before they discover, basically, is the trouble it gets us into. And so I understand there are times, I don't mean to split hairs and things like this, but basically, if I'm Romeo and I build a belief that I love Juliet, and there's a scene where I kiss her, other than the choreography of the intimacy, excuse me, I'm talking about the reality of the moment. Am I choosing to kiss her? Like, is it a choice? Like choice precog, like I chose to wear a black shirt today. I'm choosing to kiss you. Maybe the psychologist on some says, yes, it's a choice, but I just know I can't not. And so I'd rather surrender to the circumstance than make a choice and play a choice. And what I find is that actors will defend their choices, and now we're not in a creative space, that they'll make their choices and that blinds them to other things that could happen. So sometimes choice making can reduce discovery and playfulness. And so I avoid the word and I use other ways of getting in instead. And I don't mean that I'm making choices about my life and my discipline. And I'm obviously there are certain choices we're making. I'm really just trying to speak to the nature of the discoverable nature of creativity. How do I discover something if I've already decided what it will be? So you've got to paint the picture to find out how it goes.
That's cool. And it brings me back to the first little gift basket of tools that we explored, this idea of the non-dominant approach.
Yes, exactly.
I make a choice, I make this happen, this is what I think needs to happen, as opposed to letting the essence of what's happening, what you just said is beautiful.
Yeah, that's exactly that. It is the center of the non-dominant approach. But I'm not going to tell Hamlet what to do. I'm going to reveal what's happening through me as I immerse myself in his story. And then the last thing, commitment. I love that word commitment. And I don't speak about that word very often. It's not something in my vernacular as much as maybe it should be, but I do speak in terms of what's called volitional knowing. And that is a knowing that only comes from your commitment. In other words, if you've ever been to a wedding and at the end of the wedding, everybody's dancing and there's a game they play sometimes. If you've been married for 5 years, sit down. If you've been married for 10 years, sit down until eventually there's only one couple on the dance floor and they've been married for 50 years. See? And everybody celebrates them. Well, there's something, I don't know that I'll know what they know. You cannot know what it is to be married for 50 years until you've committed to being married, until you've done it. And it's called volitional knowing. There's a knowing that you can only have after you've done the thing that you're trying to know about. That's the type of knowing that is most relevant to an actor. You cannot know how the scene is going to go till you've done it. You cannot know how the audition is going. You can't know anything. It's all volitional knowing. And so volitional knowing is a form of knowing that's rooted in your commitment to know it. And it came up last night in class. Somebody said, well, how do I overcome fear? I said, listen, the only thing you cannot overcome is the thing that is larger than your commitment to overcome it. And so it shows up in these kinds of ways. But and then it can distill into discussions around discipline. I wrote a lot about discipline in a book I wrote called 𝗧𝗶𝗺𝗦𝘀. And so discipline is an expression of one's commitment, but I find it to be a more artistic expression than just commitment. Sometimes commitment can make me feel bound, like this, but it has other intentions behind it too. So anyway, that's how I would respond to the word commitment. I hope that was helpful.
So good. Brains, hearts, guts exploding with yayness. Yay. Oh my gosh, Benjamin, this has been so everything that I had that I knew it would be, of coming together, bringing these two tribes together. I'm so excited for everyone who is here. Everyone who is here, tell everyone who wasn't here and probably could or should be, share this, touch base with us, touch base with Benjamin. We're all here to keep this, like, for me, this is what the dojo is about. This is what doing all this work, the isness of our business, like when we come together and we can feel this like
Yeah, yeah.
like I don't know, just the crackle of our isness brought to life, even though we have to go, get up this phone and do this and get on the plane. When we can find these moments of the crackle of our existence just is going everywhere, that's why we do what we do. And
Yeah.
why we come together, and that's what happens when we come together. We find out more about ourselves from coming together like this. So brilliant, wonderful, fantastic, just the beginning. To all the goodness ahead, my friends. Take your isness into the world.
Thank you, everybody. Please reach out. I hope we get to see some of you again. Bye.